Hello Mandela class, welcome to your second Talk for Writing lesson for this week. Today's learning objective is, can I identify the key features of a recount and create a toolkit? So we're going to go through our text map again. Make sure you're doing the actions too, because the actions actually help you remember all the words, especially in this one because it's quite a long text map. So I'm going to show you the recording again. Okay, hopefully today works a bit better than yesterday. So listen carefully and look carefully and follow with the actions.
46. This has been a most extraordinary day. Mr. Sherlock Holmes himself couldn't have done better. The master's brother, Major Kirby Trott, has asked us to use a certain room as his study while he's here, not wanting to do his correspondence and such like in the family library. Apparently, he dictates his letters to Mahesh rather than writes them himself. Dictates means that he says what he wants to say in his letters and Mahesh writes them for him, like I does with Plump for this diary. Never knew I was dictating. Turns out Mahesh can write better English than what most of us downstairs can, except, of course, Mr. Pritchard, and in the most beautiful writing too. The only writing I've ever done is with chalk and slate or in pencil on a scrap piece of paper, and once with a dip pen. But Mahesh uses something called a fountain pen. It doesn't spurt like a fountain, though I bet I'd get blotches and splodges and the like all over me and the paper if I tried. But the ink flows regular from it, and in Mahesh's hand, the end result is beautiful. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. I was ordered to assist Mahesh in preparing the room as a study. I was told to gather any papers I found with writing on them and put them aside for the master, and to provide plenty of paper with the Lytton House letterhead, as well as make sure that the inkwells were full and the like. I wasn't sure why me. I mean, yes, the room is on the ground floor, where all the rooms, what are my responsibility, are found. But why couldn't Mahesh do it? Not that I minded. I like a change. I heard poor old Jack use a word the other day when he were asked what it was like being on unpaid light duties, what with his broken leg. He told them it was monotonous. And when I asked Cook what he meant, she told me it means doing the same boring stuff day in, day out, which just about describes me life.
Okay, that worked a lot better than yesterday. So now that you've learned the text map and followed it with your actions, we're going to look at the text map with written words, and I want you to pause the video and really look carefully at what you can notice. What features can you see? So I want you, in your best handwriting, to make a list of all the different features that you can see in this recount. So this is the same text map that Miss Gossage has just done with actions. It's just written in words. So what can you spot? What can you identify as the main features of a recount? Pause the video and write your list now. Okay, let's go through the text map together. I'm going to do it with a highlighter, and we're going to highlight everything that we can notice. Okay, so the first thing that I can notice, did you spot that? If you remember, when you were writing your own diaries, you always included the date. So it has either the day or the date. This is day 46. Now, what you notice about this sentence, this has been a most extraordinary day. Is it written like the way we normally write a sentence? No, it's been split up, and extraordinary is written in capital letters. So we can find different sentence structures throughout the recount as well. So I'm going to highlight this part. And there's another part that stands out to me as well, which is this part. So this is also split up. The sentence doesn't continue on the same line. It's different sentence structures. Okay, let's look at the first sentence. Mr. Sherlock Holmes himself couldn't have done better. The master's brother, Major Kirby Trott, has asked us to use a certain room as his study while he's here, not wanting to do his correspondence and such like in the family library. Apparently, he dictates his letters to Mahesh rather than writes them himself. Dictates means that he says what he wants to say in his letters and Mahesh writes them for him, like I does with Plump for this diary. Never knew I was dictating. Turns out that Mahesh can write better English than most of us downstairs can, except, of course, Mr. Pritchard, and in the most beautiful writing too. The only writing I've ever done is with chalk on slate or in pencil on a scrap of paper, and once with a dip pen, but Mahesh uses something called a fountain pen. Now, is there anything so far, before I carry on, that you have repetitively seen throughout this part of the text map? One thing that I have noticed is there have been a couple of, I'm going to highlight them and give you a chance to think. What do you notice about these two words? These three. These are contractions. So we have also used contractions in this recount. Now I want to ask you a question. What person have we used to write this text map? First person, second person, or third person? If it's a diary, use your knowledge from what you've already learned about writing diaries. What a person should diaries be written in? So we know that diaries are written in the first person. However, there might be also cases where we write in the second person and refer to other people. So Mr. Sherlock Holmes himself couldn't have done better, for example. You're talking about somebody else. But that's okay, because you're talking about people that you've had the experiences with. But most of the writing is going to be in the first person. I, me. So far, we've identified that it has a day or a date at the top. It has different sentence structures. We've got contractions, and we've got the first person. Now, what do you notice about how she is expressing herself in terms of the handwriting that she's noticed, Mr. Pritchard's handwriting, what kind of day it's been, what kind of language does she use to express herself? Okay, I'm also going to highlight two more words and see what you notice about them. We've got while here, and in this paragraph, you may have noticed we've also got when. I asked Cook what he meant. I haven't read this part, but you guys can read it yourselves to identify the different features. Okay, so what do you notice about these two words, while, when? Well, these are adverbials of time or time connectives, so it tells us when something is happening. Are there, oh, I had asked about the sort of language that she uses as well. So she's saying this has been a most extraordinary day. She's expressing herself by saying Mr. Pritchard's handwriting is the most beautiful writing. So, and here she's saying the end result is beautiful. So she's using emotive language as well. Okay, if you have noticed any other features, make sure you include that on your list too. Okay, also, what do you notice here? She told me it means doing something. Where else can we spot this kind of language? He told them. So instead of repeating the same name of the person who is speaking, they've used he, she, which are called pronouns, and it avoids repetition instead of saying the same person's name over and over again. Okay, I'm now going to show you a list that we have come up with that includes all the important features of a recount. Have a look and compare it to your own list and add anything that you're missing. So, it's written in the past tense. We know that from writing our own diaries because a diary is based on something that's already happened. A recount is about something that's already happened. You're retelling in your own words something that you've already experienced. Adverbials of time, which we did spot, and time connectives. It's written in chronological order. We've just done a non-chronological report, so we know non-chronological reports are not in order, but diaries and recounts are in order of what happened. Use of emotive words and language, which we also discussed. A day and date right at the top of your writing, which we also discussed. Informal chatty voice, which is called colloquial. Contractions, we also spotted contractions. So this, you also used informal chatty voice in your own diary writing. Varied sentence structures, we also looked at that. Closing statement to reflect on what's happened. Let's look at our closing statement. In the closing statement, she wraps it up by saying that her life is also, it also seems quite monotonous or boring. We've already spoken about the use of pronouns to avoid repetition. Okay, so this is the end of our English lesson. I want you to really closely look at these this list that we've written, and if you need to, you can go back to the text and see whether you spot anything else. Make sure you adapt your own list and include all the important features of a recount, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, Mandela class.